So what happens when we distort a market? And the best way to describe this is to look at the classic, in economic terms, supply and demand curves. So we have price here, and we have quantity here. Now, in an ideal market, one where the demand and supply curves are working well, a market that's working properly, that's undistorted, we have the demand curve here, and we have the supply curve, which goes like this. This is the price point. This is the point P1, and this is the quantity of the product that is produced. That is the very classic system that you want in any country. Now, when you distort the market, what you do is you move the supply curve to the left. Why does that happen? We have the price point here. This is the price and this is the quantity, and we have what's called consumer surplus that is up here. All of this is consumer surplus. This is the benefit to the consumer as a result of having an efficient market system that works properly. And what we have below the price point here is what's called the producer surplus. This is the benefit to the local producers, as a result of this system. And this is the overall producer and consumer surplus. You can describe this as the benefit to the economy. Now, what happens when we distort the market is we move the supply curve up here. We move the supply curve to the left. We're moving the supply curve to the left because the distortion is raising the cost of manufacturing. For example, it might be a tax distortion, it might be a subsidy, it might be any number of things, but it's raising the cost and it's moving this curve. Now, what happens is one can see that what happens is the price of the product goes up and the quantity produced goes down in an ordinary system. What have you done by doing this to that consumer surplus that was this amount here? You have reduced it. It goes above the price curve and below the demand curve. So you've reduced the consumer surplus to this. And you've reduced the producer surplus to this. Right? So as you move the supply curve down. So there's less consumer surplus, less stuff for consumers, less producer surplus, producers have been hurt. And additionally, we have what is in this amount here, which is the deadweight loss. This is the amount that is lost to the economy as a result of the distortion. So you have three losses. You have consumers lose, you have producers lose, and you have the overall economy losing. That's why it's a non-zero sum game. Because when you distort the economy, most economies are on this red line here. They are distorted. And there are losses to consumers, producers, and a deadweight loss in the economy. As you move the supply curve onto the black curve where it needs to be, you are increasing consumer surplus, benefits to consumers, you're increasing producer surplus, benefits to producers, and you're eliminating this deadweight loss to the economy. So you are, in classic non-zero sum terms, you are creating something that didn't exist before. Because all three of these areas, the surpluses grow, both surpluses grow, and the deadweight loss is eliminated. Now, what can happen in extreme cases of distortion is you can additionally, as well as moving the supply curve up, you can depress the demand curve. So let's imagine that you've got a demand curve that's now like this. Well, now you have a price point that is here, P3, and a quantity that is here, Q3. Now we can see what we've done to the producer surplus and the consumer surplus, because you've got a price, the demand curve here, you've got a supply curve here, you have a consumer surplus that is just this tiny little area, you've got a producer surplus that is just this tiny little area, and you've got a huge deadweight loss in the economy. And if you look at what's happened to quantity, we've substantially reduced the output. So, unfortunately, sometimes when the demand curve is reduced, which is an extreme example, the price of the product goes down. And people may think that this is a good thing, but of course less product is being produced. So, most economies in the world now are somewhere between this point and this point. And the object of the enterprise city, the object of pro-competitive regulation, is to move them to here and move them to here. That's what we are trying to do. That is what our regulatory system is designed to accomplish. And when you move from this point to this point, or from this point to this point, you are growing the consumer surplus, the benefit to consumers, you're growing the producer surplus, the benefit to producers, and you're reducing this deadweight loss. And clearly we'll never reduce it to absolutely zero, but the closer we get here, the more prosperity we are creating in the country.